Hi there, and thank you for clicking on my video. Today we've got a requested build from Maragog 3059. Asks, could you do a Lesion build? I don't know how to mod this thing. To be honest, this is more of a weapon that would be explained quite a bit more with the wiki. So let's go ahead and pull that sucker up, because I know exactly what's giving you trouble. It's the unique trait to it, the passive. Weapon primarily deals slash damage. We'll go over its stats real quick. Um, Follow through is 0.6, ranges 2.7, pretty solid. 75% slash damage, which is awesome. 15% crit chance, 2x crit multiplier, not bad. A monster status chance for a melee at 37. And the rest of the stats are kind of standard. Slam damage is 711. Slam radius is 7. Radial damage is 237. Slam deals impact. The thing that is probably giving you trouble is the passive. So we're going to talk about that real quick. On kill, uh, gain 15% attack speed and 100% toxin damage bonus for 6 seconds upon landing a successful attack with a status proc. This is probably the thing that's messing you up. It's not on kill. Sorry, it's a different weapon. The attack speed is just 15% attack speed, but the toxin is probably the thing that's messing up what you're trying to do. It's modded damage, so it counts as if you've put 100% toxin mod on the weapon. So we're basically going to discuss the builds that you can lean into with this to take advantage of it. Basically, it's going to be a mega toxin weighting for Corpus, and for more general use, modding for magnetic on your weapon, and then using the innate toxin on its own, and not modding for it. One's better for lower levels, but the Lesion is a pretty solid melee if you're doing like a Corpus level cap run. You can get some damage out of this, especially with the insane toxin weightings that you can pull on it. Because this stacks additively with Prime Fever Strike and was it the Toxin 6060? It's not Pestilence. But you can get very, very high toxin weightings with this. And also, because it's the Lesion, it's got a very generous Riven Dispo if you really enjoy this weapon. And you can get some insane toxin damage out of this. For a weapon that kind of has trouble hitting 100% crit chance. And plus, on top of that, it's got slash. It deals primarily slash damage also. So we're going to talk about how to get to that stuff. But yeah, the issue is going to be the passive. It's not really explained that well. So it's 15% additional attack speed. It does not refresh. So you'll lose the buff. And if you have enough status chance and you're mowing through enemies and killing like you're supposed to, it should almost instantly refresh. So this might be the thing that's making the weapon feel weird. But the good thing is even on the wiki itself, it basically explains what we're going to end up doing. The toxin buff enhances corrosive gas and viral builds. Because it's modded, it means it will combine with any combo element. So like what it explains here, corrosive gas, viral, and it will make the weighting of those stronger. It'll be like, so if you have like viral and it's 260/60s, that's a plus 120 weighting. Well, once the toxin buff kicks in, you're basically going to have a 220 viral weight. So you can actually get some really nice elemental modifiers out of this if you wanted to, especially for pretty cheap, because you won't have to mod for toxin, and because it's status weapon, you're going to be running weeping wounds, and you're going to be getting, what is that, 2, sometimes 3 status procs per. But it even mentions what the final build that we're going to be discussing is a Saren. Your god tier Lesion frame is going to be a Roar Saren with a Toxic Lash build. The damage gets pretty nutty. So let's go over what the standard build is. It's a very simple combo counter build. You're probably used to it. There isn't too much that's pretty exciting about it. Conditioned Overload, we are going to be doing Blood Rush just to get, because we do have access to a 2x crit multiplier. The only real consideration that you're going to have to give is whether you want to guarantee the crit with a Gladiator Might, or if you want higher crits with an Organ Shatter. I like running Gladiator Might because I just want like crits every time, right? The next one is going to be Berserker Fury, Weeping, because we're going for a dot build. We'll do the magnetic one first because it's an interesting middle ground. But here you kind of have to figure out what you're going to do. Prime Reach is also a necessity, so let's make sure we got everything so far. Base damage, crit chance, attack speed, status chance, crit damage. Okay, we've got 2 flex slots, so we need to figure out what we're going to do. If you want to do higher elemental weighting, but you want a more general build, you can actually run like a Shocking Touch against Grineer, because when the status procs, right, you will get the toxin damage, which will be modded, and electricity and the toxin will combine to give you corrosive for free. So this could be potentially something you could do to mod for corrosive. So this is just probably the thing, because it doesn't explain it that well. This is probably the part that you were having trouble with, is it counts as modded damage. So it's basically the same as me throwing like a Fever Strike on here, but it has 100 weighting. It's literally modded damage, which is like you have an extra mod off to the side, like a 10th mod or a 9th mod minus the stance mod. So it's like you have an extra mod out here that's 15% attack speed and 100 toxin, is kind of how you have to think about it. So for this, if you're trying to do this, you can either go for more range, you can go for a heavier slash weighting, you could go for, say, like a magnetic, which against Corpus would be phenomenal. You could do that. Sorry, not that one. Magnetic. Where are you? All right, there we go. So it's going to be 120 weighting of magnetic. So when the toxin kicks in, it's going to be 100 weighting. So they're going to be weighted almost the same. The slash weighting 75. This would definitely be a nice middle ground for the weighting on this, if you really wanted to do this. So it's food for thought. And I'll show the damage for that. If you're looking for something generic, it's going to scale enough. Let's do... The directors are pretty tanky. They should all be the same. Yeah, they're the same. And since Hildren Prime came out, we'll be able to strip. And you can see in the top right, the buff popped, which means I'm getting toxin weighting. You can see it procking as like an extra proc, because we're getting multiple hits or multiple status procs at the same time. Slash is forced. We're probably procking magnetic and maybe a toxin at the same time. Obviously, RNG is going to do RNG things. So pretty basic so far, right? But say you want the weapon to scale a little better. One of the things you can do, and it's actually pretty interesting, um, is there are a couple of mods that really cause the damage on this weapon particularly because of the additional modding weight that you get. Causes the toxin damage on this weapon to get a little out of control. So we're going to remove this. We're going to go all the way into toxin. We're going to, just to show originally, where is it at? Okay. So we have Virulent Scourge, which is the 60/60. Pestilence is for pistols, Pistol Pestilence, and Fever Strike. So we have a 220 toxin weighting with these. It's pretty nasty. The 100% from the passive is going to take our 220 and knock it, or 225. Hold on, maybe I had a brain fart. 165 plus 60. Okay, 225, and it's going to add 100 to it to make it 325, which is a phenomenal weighting. 325, you're starting to talk about level cap numbers. Okay. So for 325, you can get some nasty toxin dots out of this. To the point, honestly, where the toxin dots almost get to the strength where you can kind of overpower armor with them. And it would still be relevant damage against, like, infested. So with no combo, it's 1,000. With a couple stacks of viral, it's 2,800. So just from toxin dots, the alpha hits at like 14k. The Panzer is obviously helping us out a ton. 3,800, seeing some in the 4s, 5,600, 7,600. 7,300, 10.2. Uh, 9,100, 2,300, 3K. Yeah, 10.2. You get the gist. The damage, the dot damage is starting to get pretty good. You even have the force slash from the stance. So how do we amp the damage even more? We start adding faction mods in. Actually, no, we don't. The first thing we're going to do is we're actually going to add Boreal's Contempt in. And this is starting to get into rare modding, where it's RNG. This is a drop. It's from farming, I believe, Caliban parts. I forget what the actual node for this is. Let me look this up. Boreal's Contempt. Alright, Wiki, help us out. Okay, it's from Cetus and Fortuna. 50 to 70 bounty. Low drop chance, but pretty decent for rotation C. It's going to take probably a couple of runs. But 5% and 7.5. So pretty basic, but you get 2 shots at it each bounty. It's the 50 to 70 bounty. And Cetus and Fortuna, the Narmer bounty. So pretty basic. When you pick it up, this gives you melee damage, which does technically scale additively with condition overload, so nothing impressive there. But this additional part, 60% damage from status effects, is a separate multiplier from faction damage. So this would be a really good general faction damage that you could add. If you don't want to run faction damage, you can run this, and it'll actually do pretty damn well in terms of boosting the dots on your weapon. And the damage from the status effects applies to anything. So you can boost the damage further with this. This would be the next upgrade. Even though technically we do lose the 60% and the status chance from the 60/60 mod. This well more than compensates for it. So Boreal's Contempt. Let's see how that does. We'll kill the enemies. Bring him back. We got nerds to hit. Let's get stacked back up to 12. Okay, we're seeing 8,600. 11,736. 1710. 4,900. 1539. 7,200. 10.4, 39, 3,700, obviously. A 14K, that's got to be a headshot. 6,600, 3,400. So you get the gist. Pretty basic. So that's your probable first conditional scaling. You're just trying to get crits, you're just trying to get status procs. And if you're looking for some generic build to run, and you're fine with how Toxin interacts with armor, or you're running an armor strip frame, like say Necros, or say the recently released Hildren Prime, this is an awesome build. If you're hitting stuff that's armor stripped, and even if it's Grineer, let me pull some of those guys in. Some tanky boys. Pull in 20 of them. Let's get our stacks. Alright, so 163, 78k on the dot, 20k on the dot, 50k on the Toxin dot. That was a slash also. 28k on the Toxin dot. 20k on the Toxin dot. 43k on the Toxin dot. 65k on the Toxin dot. That one had a slash. There we go. 15k. Yeah, 53k on the Toxin dot. It's starting to get pretty impressive. So how do we boost it even more? Well, faction damage. And this is going to require more stuff, right? The mod that we're going to have to take off is going to be Berserker Fury. I know it kind of sucks. And faction mod is going to go on here, but we're actually going to outsource the attack speed with the Arcane Strike. If you do not have this, but you have Valkyr Helminth on, or Helminth in the helmet system, so you have access to Warcry, throw Warcry onto whatever you're using, and it will give you some attack speed and help you break even a little bit. And it'll also help with survivability. And if you're running like a melee setup, like, it's all gravy, right? Because with the Warcry augment, you'll be able to keep that sucker alive. So this is how we're going to outsource our attack speed. So we've removed 70% attack speed potentially off the weapon itself and put 60 on the frame. So we're almost even. But for the cost of an arcane, we now have additional faction damage, which is even more scaling. So with one slash... Okay, with the Toxin dot, we're now at 800. A slash dot is doing 17k. Let's stack it up. Alright, Toxin dot is doing 12k. Now it's doing 100k, 99. Okay, one shot. 59k. 108k, 21k, follow through hurt. Okay. Yeah, 99,268. We're doing way more damage. So how do we amp this to insanity? Right? Because that's the big deal. Our go-to for this is going to be Saren. But it works... Yeah, that's about right. Alright, we got Strike. If you have a tank Saren, like say you really enjoy Saren and you have a tank Saren, and a way to keep them alive, say you're running the Augment, Regenerative Molt, this is definitely a possibility. You're going to have to rely on the frame stacking your damage quite a bit. But this will absolutely boost your damage to an insane portion. Because, and here's the deal with it, right? Roar increases your base damage by 90 or 89.4% on this build. It's only got 298 strength. It's not as high as it could be. But then it acts as an additional faction damage on top of the 55 from the faction damage. And it scales you again. But the thing is that Saren has another ability called Toxic Lash, which adds toxin damage to your melee attack, actually to all forms of damage, basically. I think it still even adds toxin damage to your bullet jump. But anything that deals damage, so your primary, your secondary, your melee, will all deal an additional final multiplier of 89% additional toxin damage. Now, here's where things get crazy, right? Because you want to know where the damage comes from. This toxin damage scales off of the modded toxin damage on the weapon, which includes the 165 from the from Prime Fever Strike and the 100 from the modded. And then it gets influenced by the faction damage and Roar for the initial hit, and then the damage gets added again, or multiplied again for the dot, based on your now newly modified modded damage, and then it gets scaled again by Roar and the faction damage, and the dot damage gets influenced by the modded toxin weighting. So there is a ton of scaling that gets packed onto this. It's a very, very niche and unique build for the Lesion that absolutely jacks its damage up through the roof. It almost doesn't even matter that it can't hit reds, to be honest. And this interaction, the Toxic Lash Roar combo on a Strength Duration Saren, can almost take anything to level cap. I think I've even seen somebody do a Mark 1 Bratton to level cap using this setup. But just to give us a little bit more general usage, we are going to be using Venom Dose on Spores, which is going to then give us a further 298 damage to our hits, which of course is going to scale the Spores, right? Because it's a final damage multiplier. So you have a ton of modded damage working together. So we'll strip, cast 3, hold 1, cast Roar, and we'll smack that. And first hit, we're already at 122. $31, 99k, yeah, 78k on an armored enemy, which is what we were getting on an unarmored enemy. So the damage is way higher. And this would basically allow you to take a build similar to this to like level cap, and the Lesion would be doing hella damage. But if you didn't want to run the setup like with the faction damage, you would just throw Berserker back on. So to talk about where you get the mods, Condition Overload, Blood Rush, Weeping Wounds, Berserker are all Deimos mods. You pick them up from bounties, and Condition Overload has a low drop chance, but it comes from a lot of stuff. And you kill a ton of them, so you should be able to pick it up. Blood Rush and Weeping Wounds are bounty mods. If you don't have Gladiator Might, which is a Cetus bounty mod, use Organ Shatter. Nothing wrong with that. Borealis Contempt is a Narmer mod, so small chance of getting that. And obviously the primed mods come from Barrow. And even if you don't run like such a high power strength, with just the regular Toxin dot, right? Even though they're armored, just from Toxin Lash alone, it'll give you a nice buff. So if you're trying to go all in on the Toxin buff, just make sure to cast 3, cast Roar. You will be Gucci for a long time, especially against Corpus. So even with armored targets, you're still hitting for 100k. The corrosive, it messes with the dispo a little bit, but when you're doing that much damage, who cares, right? So, or it messes with the weighting, but you're adding a bunch of external factors onto this, and I would highly recommend the Roar build. It's a ton of scaling. If you really want to focus on the Toxin dot itself, I would say don't worry about this. The corrosive does mess with the weighting though. But Toxic Lash, just Toxic Lash and Roar, is a crap ton of Toxin dot damage on its own. Even on completely armored targets, it's doing 100k plus. And when you strip the enemy, those ticks are doing like a couple 100k. Actually, you know what? I'm here. Let me go ahead and show that. Alright, so base dots, 2k. Starting to get some 3ks. We're just building up combo. Little baby dots. Alright, here we go. Roar, Toxic Lash. 400k. 400k on a raw hit, and 500k on a Toxin dot. And those are some level cap worthy numbers. So I hope this helps, gives you some build paths. If you don't have the Arcane, obviously Warcry can help out. I don't know what, you didn't mention what frame you were trying to use, so I'm just giving you like the ideal one. But if you don't enjoy Saren, Venom Dose is up to you. I like the additional corrosive damage. Because the multiplier, the Toxic Lash multiplier, still gets affected by the toxin waiting. So it just ends up being a crap ton of damage, right? One of the alternatives that you could use would be if you don't have Rhino, you could also run the same dot build on the weapon itself, but then do like a Grendel subsume, Nourish, right? That's a bunch of damage also. It's not going to be as much, but this is the ideal setup to really get that weapon on and popping. So you just saw it, half a mil toxin dot, and a 400k raw hit. So there's some damage that can be pulled out of the Lesion. It's definitely a fun little weapon. It got power scaled, but the fact is if it gets the job done and you enjoy it and you like using it, who cares? So this would be an example of the build. I would recommend Shimmering Blight for this because you're just trying to get as many headshots as possible. But if you want to use one of the other stances, I enjoy using Twirling Spire. Not gonna lie, I'm a Twirling Spire enjoyer just because of the mobility. It feels pretty good to use, and landing the headshot feels pretty damn good. On the block forward combo, but Shimmering Blight with its plethora of headshots, frankly, just does more damage. So I hope this helps. Maragog, fun little weapon. I hope you enjoy it. If you don't have Condition Overload, let's go over some alternatives. Pressure Point, Prime Pressure Point are obviously the direct swaps for Condition Overload. Blood Rush. If you have Blood Rush, I feel like this scales better. But if you don't, I'd say just take the Toxin 60/60. If you don't have Blood Rush, and put this here and just go full status. You could even do like additional range. Like a spring-loaded blade. For even more range. The follow-through isn't great. But, you know, running around with a 7.7 meter range on this, it's not going to do anywhere near as much damage. Because you're going to have trouble with the additional bonus damage on the headshots. So even though the weapon has like a low crit chance, if you crit and hit something on the head, you'll get the crit multiplier, then you'll get the headshot multiplier itself, and then you'll get a 2x multiplier to damage on top. So even with the crit chance being as low as it is, as long as you're getting yellows, everything's gravy, which is basically what we're chasing because of how easy it is with Shimmering Blight to get headshots. Just go ahead and knock them out, right? So I would recommend, even though the crit's pretty low, Blood Rush, Gladiator Might to give you even more crit. It's going to hurt you in the crit multiplier, but you'll make it up with getting more regular crits. And because of the stance, you'll get more headshots than running the other ones, which means you will get the headshot crit bonus more often, which easily makes up for the loss of crit multiplier. So I hope this helps, dude. Y'all take it easy. Have a wonderful day. Stay blessed.